Set a cup of coffee on the table and look at it. It seems solid, but almost everything your eye reports about that cup is a convenient fiction. At the microscopic level, that porcelain is a lattice of atoms held apart by forces. Those atoms are mostly empty space, wrapped around a flicker of quantum probability, all while the glaze itself imperceptibly reacts and degrades into the air. We evolved to see stable objects because tracking every shifting molecule would paralyze us. Our brains created a survival shortcut. We see a noun, a finished object, when we are actually looking at a verb, a process running so slowly that we mistake its patience for stillness. This illusion of stillness governed Western thought for over 200 years. Isaac Newton gave us a magnificently orderly universe, a rigid clockwork box filled with hard, unchanging objects, moving through empty space and a separate, independent river of time. That mechanical view bled into everything, including how we see ourselves. We started treating human character, identity, and psychological trauma as possessions kept in a drawer. We decided a person simply is a certain way, treating their nature as a permanent substance lodged inside them. The world of solid things is a highly useful interface, but mistaking that simplified interface for reality carries a heavy cost. When we freeze the living into the categorical, we lose the ability to see how change actually happens. By the early 20th century, the Newtonian clock cracked. Quantum physics looked closely at the supposedly solid bricks of matter and dissolved them. Electrons were smears of probability, materializing only during an encounter. Simultaneously, Einstein's relativity proved the stage itself wasn't fixed. Space and time were an active fabric, bending and stretching to mass. The rigid container had collapsed. Most physicists treated these new equations as mathematical tools and ignored the existential implications. Alfred North Whitehead, a mathematician who understood the equations as well as anyone alive, saw that a new physics demanded a philosophical rewrite of reality. Whitehead proposed a radical alternative. The universe is not a warehouse of objects. Instead, it is a living, continuous tissue of happenings. There are no things at all, only interconnected events. To understand the modern physical world, we had to change the grammar of how we think. We had to stop asking, "What is this thing?" and start asking, "How does this happen?" Whitehead replaced the dead, hard atom with what he called actual occasions. These are momentary drops of experience, brief, complete pulses of becoming. Reality at its absolute floor isn't made of stuff, it's made of tiny, discrete acts of happening. Whitehead named the binding force of the universe prehension. In this process, each new event actively gathers and responds to its past. Every occasion is literally built out of its own specific way of taking in the universe. Prehension is a selective gathering. The new occasion emphasizes certain past influences while dimming others, weaving them into a new unity that did not exist before. The past supplies the ingredients, but the current occasion does the cooking. Think of a jazz improviser. A musician is strictly bounded by the notes that were just played and the key of the song. But within those inherited constraints, the performer is free to decide what note to play next. This creative settling solves the ancient dilemma of determinism. We are thoroughly conditioned by the past, but the precise manner of our integration is our own. The universe is a continuous, unwritten improvisation. When you apply this process philosophy to human experience, the heaviest parts of our lives change shape. Consider the self as a society of occasions, a chain where each moment inherits the character of the one before it. In a healthy life, that inheritance is integrated into something new. But trauma occurs when an occasion stops integrating and starts repeating. Whitehead provides a way to view trauma as a frozen process, where the self is locked in a loop of past inheritance. Healing is the unfreezing, the resumption of creative prehension, where a painful past is finally woven into a forward-moving future. Replacing things with happenings suggests that we are not broken mechanisms in need of repair. We are living processes whose capacity for continuous creation can be stalled, but never permanently lost. But the exact same relativistic physics that destroyed the Newtonian clock also fused space and time into a single four-dimensional fabric. This leads to the block universe, where past, present, and future exist simultaneously. Relativity proved there is no universal now across the cosmos. My present might be your future. If no single moment is uniquely real, they must all exist, all the time. If tomorrow already exists at its designated coordinate in spacetime, waiting for you to reach it, your future is mapped. Time does not flow. The sensation of making a choice is an illusion generated by your consciousness sliding through a frozen block. We are left with a brutal paradox. The fundamental physics of our universe contradict the lived human experience of an open, unpredictable, and changeable future. In his book, Between Process and Eternity, philosopher Boris Kriger highlights the friction in Whitehead's life's work. Whitehead fully understood the math of relativity, but he refused to surrender the concept of an open future. Kriger argues that Whitehead stopped halfway. He built a breathtakingly rigorous philosophy of process, but by leaning heavily on our human intuition of time's passage, he left a trapdoor back to the exact cold eternity he sought to escape. Now we are caught between two realities: the warmth of human becoming, freedom, healing, and flow, against the strict, cold schema of an unmoving four-dimensional block. Are we genuinely improvising our way through a living, breathing universe, or are we simply experiencing a finished script from the inside?